Brandon Duncan is a 33-year-old rapper who goes by the name of Tiny Do.
You gon' need a pre-shirt after these bullets hit in your t-shirt.
He's one of 14 San Diego men charged in connection with a string of shootings. Although prosecutors say that Duncan did not participate in the alleged crimes, the DA says his song lyrics promote violence and make him guilty of gang conspiracy under a California law. Here with a look at the law being invoked for the first time in San Diego is my guest, attorney and legal analyst Dan Eaton. Welcome back.
Thank you, Peggy.
Now, Dan, what are the charges against Brandon Duncan?
Look, there are 9 charges against Mr. Duncan related to gang-related shootings, and they are brought under Penal Code Section 182.5, which was enacted by the voters in 2000. And it basically says, look, if you're an active gang member and you have general knowledge of gang activities and you benefited in some way, you can be guilty of felonies, particular felonies that the gang committed.
So let's talk about these specific elements that prosecutors are saying applies to Duncan. How do they say that he's benefiting from this?
Well, of course, that's the critical question, isn't it? He is what his attorney called in an interview a gangsta rapper, and he had a particular CD called No Safety with a revolver on the cover of the CD. He says, look, this has elevated his stature as a gangster rapper, and that's enough of a benefit under this statute to make him guilty of these shootings, even if he had no knowledge of them, as long as he had general knowledge of the gang's activities.
But they're talking about him benefiting. How would he have benefited? Because he, I understand, I've read, he made no extra sales on his album because of this.
Well, let's be clear. We are not talking about monetary benefit. We are talking about the elevated stature that he enjoyed. The fact that his gang doing these felonious activities, the murder and so forth, gives him a greater street cred in the community and makes him a tougher dude. I'm sorry if my slang is outdated, but
it works.
But nonetheless, the point is that it makes him a tougher guy, and therefore makes the potential for him to gain wider renown as a gangster rapper.
Well, Brandon Duncan defended himself and his lyrics in this jailhouse interview by our media partner, 10 News.
I'm just painting a picture of a story. That's it. I'm not telling, I'm not ever telling somebody to go, hey, go commit this crime.
If he's convicted under the conspiracy law, what kind of punishment would he face?
We're looking at 25 years to life for each of these. That's a long time.
Has California Supreme Court ruled on cases like this where artistic expression and criminal punishment are linked?
Well, it's interesting. They've also ruled on this particular statute in 2013, but in 2004 there was a case of In re George T. involving a juvenile who made some poems that he shared with classmates, and the classmates took them as some sort of a threat of a school shooting, and the California Supreme Court said no, they were too vague. There was not enough under the criminal conspiracy statute to convict this young man. Of course, the young man who circulated these poems was not a gang member, so it was a different case.
Well, you know, Brandon Duncan, or Tiny Do, says he's not an active gang member.
Right.
What's the difference there?
Well, and that's interesting. What exactly does that mean? Do you have to have done a certain number of things in recent activities? His attorney, Brian Watkins, in an interview with Channel 6, said recently that he is a documented gang member, but that was back in the 1990s. At some point, does somebody who is documented gang member cease to be an active gang member for the purposes of this particular statute under which he is being prosecuted?
Well, Tiny Do isn't the first rapper to face criminal charges over his music. What are some of the First Amendment issues that these types of cases raise?
Well, it goes back to the word benefit, doesn't it, Peggy? And that is to say that, are we talking about any kind of benefit, even an intangible benefit that arises from artistic expression? That's the issue. Artistic expression is broadly protected under the First Amendment, and the question is whether you can use that consistent with the First Amendment to punish someone. And that's really going to be the critical question if Mr. Duncan is convicted. And right now, of course, we're only at the trial stage.
And is this something that could be taken, that could be broadened to other artists? Let's say somebody plays a gangster in a movie, things like this. If this conviction goes through, could this be expanded, or will it be pretty specific? Understand,
though, there are 2 additional elements beyond benefiting. We're not just talking about benefiting from whatever artistic expression. They also would have to be an active gang member, and they would also have to have general knowledge of the gang's activities at the time of the commission of the particular act that's the basis of the charges. So, no, all actors don't need to be completely afraid unless they're active gang members who have general knowledge of the gang that committed these activities.
All right, Attorney Dan Eaton, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Peggy.